Down in the depths of my subterranean domain, situated near the home furnace, stand my aquariums. This is the sole sanctuary in the house my wife would permit a 40-year-old gentleman with a newly acquired hobby to have them. Behold the chaos. A 55-gallon aquatic ecosystem. The Guppy family aquarium.
The Guppy family aquarium!
Perpetually on the brink of overpopulation, the guppies breed at an alarming rate. The delicate and expensive plants originally introduced have all perished. Only guppy grass, moneywort, and this unknown plant are left. If you know what it is, leave a comment. Save me from having to search. Furthermore, we are besieged by a ruthless filamentous chlorophyta, or better yet, the monstrous green hair algae that, despite my most valiant efforts, continuously triumphs over me. It has broken my spirit, depriving me to weekly removal routines. But how did we arrive at this ecological crisis? 8 months ago, this transparent vessel housed merely 3 guppies. It was intended to be a harmonious community tank, a peaceful exhibit of guppies, neon tetras, Japanese rice fish, and a dedicated sanitation crew of neocaridina shrimp and ram's horn snails. Instead, it has devolved into a sprawling, unchecked aquatic regime dominated entirely by guppies and snails. This chain of catastrophic events originated with a 30-gallon tank, now appropriately named the Bachelor Containment Unit. Pay no attention to the black skirt tetra.
My name is Jack.
He is currently being held hostage. This glass enclosure was not always so desolate.
My name
It
is
once
Jack.
boasted a lush forest of rotala and vast emerald fields of java moss. It was the first residence of 3 guppies I had purchased from the local fish store. However, engrossed by the demands of daily life and having let my vigilance slip, I allowed the tank to simply exist. Even so, I soon discovered a fundamental truth of the hobby. Guppies are prolific live bearers, requiring virtually no encouragement to multiply. Housing a solitary male alongside 2 females would inevitably yield offspring if left unsegregated. My logic was simple.
My head hurts.
Let them flourish in this underwater utopia. Yet, for 6 long months,
I'm sick.
absolute sterility. The psychological toll of failing to breed the most notoriously fertile species on Earth eroded my composure. Peers warned of impending overpopulation. Experts demanded immediate segregation. Yet there I stood, failing at a task deemed virtually foolproof. I succumbed to obsession. I spent hours analyzing my methodology. The consensus across internet forums and YouTube videos was uniform. Simply provide shelter, maintain stability, and nature takes its course. In utter desperation, I identified the sole remaining variable: their diet. A strict regimen of standard color-enhancing flakes was clearly deficient in the vital nutrients required for my male specimen to activate his biological imperatives and exert his masculine dominance. Determined to rectify this failure, I journeyed to a local aquatic purveyor to procure high-protein provisions, specifically freeze-dried bloodworms and brine shrimp. Yet, as I traversed the aisle, fate intervened. A sale. A magnificent, irresistible discount on aquariums. I required no further aquatic housing. This was merely a nascent hobby. Yet, gazing upon that pristine, gleaming 55-gallon glass structure, all fiscal responsibility dissolved into thin air. A retail associate approached, clearly mesmerized by my formidable physical stature. In a remarkably effeminate tone, he inquired,
"Are you thinking of buying that big aquarium?"
I replied, "Indeed. Acquiring an unnecessary vessel of this magnitude is remarkably enticing." Instantaneously, I began daydreaming. I envisioned brilliant schools of tetras and rice fish gliding through crystalline waters, my bright-colored guppies playing, while vibrant red neocaridina shrimp cavorted harmoniously with the sanitation snails, eagerly consuming organic debris. The associate interrupted my trance, inquiring as to my intended inhabitants. Guppies, I declared by default. He immediately voiced his profound admiration for the species, and enthralled by my distinct alpha demeanor, he proposed an additional promotional discount. How could a rational man refuse? I was unaware at the time, but I was exhibiting the early symptoms of multi-tank syndrome, a severe psychological affliction where a fish keeper irrationally convinces themselves that acquiring just one more tank will magically solve everything, only to launch an infinite loop of glass boxes and chaos. Upon reaching the register, the associate made a surprising statement.
I know you're like super fit, but would you like some help with loading the tank into your car?
My muscular structure, temporarily fatigued from a rigorous 3-hour training session earlier that morning, reluctantly conceded. He paged for assistance, and an elder gentleman, at the ripe age of 55, emerged. I was mesmerized. This was no coincidence. This was cosmic alignment, divine destiny, kismet. A 55-gallon vessel, an effeminate clerk overcome by my aura, and a 55-year-old assistant. The numerical symmetry was absolute. The skies cleared. The tank secured in my vehicle, I headed home with a grin and the best of Eurodance music blasting from my pristine audio system. The enclosure sat on the basement floor for 3 weeks while I engaged in an intense internal debate regarding its financial practicality. Predictably, I convinced myself it was an absolute necessity. I acquired a heavy-duty stand and began setting up the tank. I introduced low-demanding flora, Rotala rotundifolia, Ludwigia natten super red, and Alternanthera reinecki, guppy grass, and moneywort. These plants do not demand CO2 injection and will grow perfectly in a low-tech setup, providing pleasing colors. After spending an entire day meticulously arranging substrate to emulate the elite aquascapers of the internet, the ecosystem was established. All that was left was to cycle the tank. After about 4 weeks, the tank had cycled. I relocated the 3 guppies from the 30-gallon to their new primary residence. Unbeknownst to me, a rogue contingent of ramshorn snails had clandestinely infiltrated the habitat via harvested Rotala plant cuttings from the 30-gallon aquarium. The guppies enjoyed the extra space and the invigorating currents generated by the hang-on back filter. I felt a sense of profound stewardship. Yet covertly, the shadow of breeding failure lingered. Then, tragedy struck. I was summoned for an intense work contract. My schedule was consumed. Maintenance was relegated strictly to Sundays. Then, on one fateful morning, while executing a routine feeding, I observed microscopic movement near the base of the vegetation. A fry. A single, magnificent baby guppy. Exhilaration surged through my veins. I summoned my spouse. I summoned my offspring. The fatigue of the grueling work week evaporated instantaneously. Vindication. Redemption. No longer would I avert my gaze in shame when encountering fellow aquarists. No, sir. It was they who should bow in deference to my success. As the weeks progressed, the habitat underwent a dramatic metamorphosis. The delicate stem plants withered and detached, while the guppy grass surged uncontrollably. The snail population experienced an exponential boom. Most importantly, fry began materializing in overwhelming quantities. Observing the magnificent coloration of the founding male, I decided to pursue the art of line breeding. To prevent undesirable genetic mixing, I systematically harvested the young males and banished them to the 30-gallon tank, turning it into a bleak penal colony for males. So, why did the 30-gallon enclosure fail to yield surviving fry, while the 55-gallon unit produced a population explosion? The answer arrived not through complex science, but as a sudden epiphany over a high-protein breakfast. Guppy grass. The sole new addition. The reason? Adult guppies lack parental instincts and will routinely eat their own young. The 30-gallon lacked the necessary refuge. The fry were hunted down by their murderous parents. Hence, guppy grass. It wasn't a matter of tank size. The 30-gallon would have worked fine had I had the right plant. And so through divine alignment, a retail sale, and the assistance of a 55-year-old man, we arrive at the current chaotic state of the Guppy family aquarium.
The Guppy Family Aquarium.
If I made you even slightly laugh, leave a comment. I've got more insanity on the way. Subscribe so you don't miss the madness.